The morning light filtered through the lace curtains of my bedroom in Charleston, and I could hear the sound of the harbor in the distance. It had been exactly 4 months since I buried my husband Robert, and this was the first morning I'd woken up without that crushing weight on my chest. My son Jason had been so attentive these past months, calling every day, visiting twice a week. His wife Tiffany even organized the entire funeral reception. I felt grateful, truly grateful, to have family who cared. I was making coffee when my phone buzzed. A text from Jason. "Mom, can Tiff and I come by today? Want to talk about something important." My heart warmed. He was probably checking on me again, maybe suggesting we go through more of Robert's things together. I texted back a quick yes and started tidying up the house. They arrived around 2 in the afternoon. Jason hugged me tight, and Tiffany kissed my cheek, her perfume a bit too strong as always. We sat in the living room, the same room where Robert and I had shared 41 years of morning coffee and evening wine. "Mom," Jason began, taking my hand, "Tiff and I have been worried about you. This house is so big, so much maintenance, and you're here all alone." I smiled. "I appreciate your concern, honey, but I'm managing fine. Your father taught me well. I know how to handle the bills, the yard service, everything." Tiffany leaned forward, her voice syrupy sweet. "But Margaret, you shouldn't have to manage all of that at your age. We've been looking into some wonderful senior living communities. Places where you'd have people around, activities, healthcare right on site."
And that's
My
when I
smile
realized
faltered.
this wasn't
Senior
just a
living?
story I
I'm
needed to
62,
tell.
not 92.
It was a moment that
I'm
changed
perfectly
everything
capable
for
of.
me.
"Of course you are," Jason interrupted quickly. "But think about it practically. Dad's life insurance and the sale of his medical practice, that's a lot of money to manage. What if something happened to you? What if you fell? Or got confused about the finances?" The word confused stung like a slap. "I've been managing our household finances for 20 years while your father focused on his practice. I'm not confused about anything. We're just thinking ahead, Mom." Tiffany's voice had an edge now. "Jason and I could help manage things. If you moved somewhere smaller, somewhere safer. You could sign a power of attorney, just for peace of mind." Something cold settled in my stomach. "I don't think that's necessary." They left an hour later, and I stood at the window watching their BMW pull away. The unease wouldn't leave me. Power of attorney. Confused. Those words kept echoing. That evening, my daughter Laura called from Seattle. She's a tax attorney, sharp as a tack, takes after her father that way. "Hey, Mom, how are you holding up?" "I'm fine, sweetheart. Jason and Tiffany just left, actually." "Oh?" Something in her tone shifted. "What did they want?" I told her about the conversation, trying to keep my voice light, but Laura knows me too well. "Mom, did they specifically mention the insurance money?" "Well, yes. They said it's a lot to manage, which I suppose it is. 4.2 million is more than I've ever dealt with." The silence on the other end lasted too long. "Laura, Mom, I need you to listen to me carefully. Don't sign anything. Don't agree to any financial arrangements. And especially, don't give anyone power of attorney. Not yet. You're scaring me." "I don't mean to. But Jason called me 2 weeks ago. He was asking about Dad's estate, about whether the insurance payout had come through yet, about whether you'd updated your will." It felt off. When I pressed him on why he was asking, he got defensive and said he was just trying to help you. After we hung up, I couldn't sleep. I kept replaying every conversation I'd had with Jason since Robert died. The questions about the insurance company, the suggestions about simplifying my finances, the way Tiffany always steered conversations toward my future care needs. Around 2 in the morning, I got up to get water. My home office was next to the kitchen, and I noticed my laptop wasn't quite closed. I always close it completely. Always. My hands shook as I opened it. The browser history made my blood run cold. Someone had been searching on my computer. How to get power of attorney for elderly parent. Signs of dementia in seniors. Conservatorship laws, South Carolina. Best nursing homes, Charleston, under $8,000 per month. I checked the timestamp. Yesterday afternoon. When Jason had asked to use my bathroom, the room spun. I sat down hard in my desk chair, staring at the screen. This couldn't be real. My son wouldn't. But the evidence was right there. I needed proof. Real proof. I needed to know if this was really what it looked like, or if I was jumping to paranoid conclusions in my grief. The next morning, I called Laura. I need your help. I need to know if I'm losing my mind or if something is really wrong here. She flew out the next day. We sat in my office, and she helped me install monitoring software on my phone and computer that would track any attempts to access my accounts or information. Then she did something that made me uncomfortable but that I knew was necessary. Mom, I'm going to set up a small camera in your living room, just for a week or two. If Jason and Tiffany come over and you're in the kitchen or bathroom, we need to know what they're saying when you're not around. That feels like spying on my own son. I know, but if we're wrong, you can apologize and we'll all laugh about it. And if we're right. She didn't finish the sentence. Laura left the next morning, making me promise to call her every single day. The camera was hidden in a bookshelf, pointed at the couch and coffee table. I felt sick every time I looked at it. 3 days later, Jason called. Hey Mom, Tiff and I want to bring dinner over tonight. We found some information about a really nice place called Magnolia Gardens that we want to show you. They arrived at 6 with takeout from my favorite seafood place. We ate and chatted, and it all felt so normal that I started to think I'd been paranoid. Maybe Laura and I had overreacted. These were my kids. The boy I'd raised, whose scraped knees I'd bandaged, whose college applications I'd proofread. After dinner, I excused myself to make coffee. While I was in the kitchen, I could hear them talking in low voices. My heart pounded as I deliberately took my time, measuring the coffee grounds slowly, filling the water reservoir carefully. When I came back with the coffee tray, they were looking at a brochure for Magnolia Gardens. Tiffany was all smiles. Your
Welcome
daughter-in-law
back, everyone.
researched this for
Today,
hours, Mom.
I want to share a
It's
story
got
about
everything.
a moment that
A pool,
completely
a
changed
library,
my perspective.
Organized trips, and the healthcare wing has 24-hour nursing care. I don't need nursing care. I need my home. Jason's jaw tightened, a look I recognized from when he was a teenager and didn't get his way. Mom, be reasonable. This house is worth at least $800,000. You could sell it, use maybe $300 for a down payment at Magnolia Gardens, and invest the rest. Combined with Dad's insurance money, you'd be set for life. I am set for life. Here, in my home. For now, Tiffany said quietly. But what about when you can't manage the stairs anymore? What about when you start forgetting things? I don't forget things. Not yet, Jason said. But Mom, you're 62. Dad died at 67. His mother had dementia in her 70s. It's better to plan ahead now while you're still competent. That word again. Competent, as if my competence was already in question. They left around 9, and I waited until I saw their car disappear before I went to my laptop. Laura had set up the camera to upload footage to a secure cloud account. My hands were trembling so badly I could barely type the password. The video loaded. I fast-forwarded to the part where I'd left for the kitchen, and then I heard it. Tiffany's voice clear as day. She's being so stubborn about this. We need to push harder. Jason. I know. But if we push too hard, she'll dig in her heels. We need to be subtle. Make her think it's her idea. 4.2 million, Jason. Plus the house. Plus whatever she's got in savings. We're talking about 5 million minimum. And she's just sitting on it while we're drowning in debt from your failed restaurant and my student loans. I know, babe. But we can't just grab it. We need legal control. Once we get power of attorney, or better yet, get her declared incompetent, we can move her into Magnolia Gardens and manage everything. How long do you think that'll take? Dr. Kerrigan owes me a favor. If Mom seems confused or forgetful at an appointment, he might be willing to write something up about cognitive decline. Then we get a lawyer, file for conservatorship, and we're golden. She'll be comfortable at Magnolia Gardens, and we'll have access to handle her finances. And Laura? Laura's in Seattle. By the time she figures out what's happening, it'll be done. Mom will be legally under our care, and there's nothing Laura can do about it. Tiffany laughed. Your mom probably thinks she's going to leave everything to both of you equally. She has no idea. Well, Laura's got her lawyer's salary. She doesn't need it like we do. And I'm the son. I'm the one who's supposed to inherit the bulk anyway. The video went on, but I'd stopped listening. I was too busy trying not to vomit. My son, my Jason. The baby I'd nursed, the boy I'd taught to ride a bike, the young man I'd sent off to college with care packages and encouragement. He was planning to have me declared incompetent so he could steal my money. I must have sat there for an hour, just staring at the wall. Then I picked up my phone and called Laura. "Mom? What's wrong? You sound terrible. I need you to watch the video. Right now." While I'm on the phone with you, I heard typing, then silence, then a sharp intake of breath, then quietly, "Oh my God, what do I do?" My voice cracked. "Laura, what do I do? He's my son. He's a thief, Mom. He's planning to steal from you and lock you away, but we're not going to let that happen." Her voice was hard, her lawyer voice. "First thing tomorrow, you're calling your bank and setting up alerts on every account. Then you're calling Dad's attorney, Mark Sullivan. He needs to know what's happening, and then we're documenting everything." "Document what?" "Every conversation, every text, every visit. We keep that camera running. And Mom, this is important. You can't let Jason know that you know. You need to act normal. Can you do that?" Could I? Could I look at my son and pretend everything was fine while knowing he wanted to imprison me in a nursing home and steal everything his father had worked for? I'll try. The next morning, I called Mark Sullivan. He'd been Robert's attorney for 30 years, and a friend even longer. When I told him what was happening, there was a long pause. "Margaret, I'm so sorry. I wish I could say I was surprised, but I've seen this before. More often than you'd think. Family members who view an inheritance as something they're owed rather than something they might receive. What can I do to protect myself?" "First, we make sure your will and power of attorney documents are ironclad. You choose who you want to have power of attorney if you ever need it, and we make it legally binding. I'd suggest, Laura, given the circumstances. Second, we document everything Jason and Tiffany say and do. And third, we set up your accounts so that no one can access them without your explicit authorization. I'll have my assistant send you a list of steps to take." I spent the next week following Mark's instructions to the letter. I changed all my passwords. I set up two-factor authentication on every account. I met with my bank manager and put alerts on any transaction over $500. I transferred all the insurance money into a new account that only I could access. And I kept the camera running. Jason and Tiffany came by twice more that week. The first visit, Tiffany brought more brochures.
I never imagined it would be possible.
Jason casually mentioned that he'd made an appointment for me with Dr. Kerrigan for a routine checkup.
Grateful.
I didn't ask for an appointment. "I know, Mom, but you haven't been in since Dad died. It's important to keep up with your health, especially at your age." At my age. As if I were ancient. I went to the appointment, but I called Dr. Kerrigan's office first and explained the situation to his nurse. When I arrived, Dr. Kerrigan himself came to get me from the waiting room. "Margaret, I need you to know that whatever Jason told you, I never agreed to write any kind of letter about cognitive decline. When he approached me at the hospital benefit last month, I told him I couldn't and wouldn't do that." Relief flooded through me. "So you know what he's trying to do?" I suspected. "And I'm glad you came in so we could talk. I'm going to do a full exam today, including a cognitive assessment, and I'm going to document that you are in excellent health, both physical and mental. If anyone ever tries to claim otherwise, you'll have recent medical records to prove it." The examination took 2 hours. Dr. Kerrigan was thorough, asking me to remember lists of words, do math problems, and answer questions about current events. At the end, he sat down across from me. "Margaret, you're as sharp as you were 10 years ago. Your memory is excellent. Your reasoning is sound. There is absolutely no indication of cognitive decline. I'm putting all of this in writing, and I'm sending a copy to your attorney and one to you." I cried in his office, tears of relief and gratitude. When I got home, I had a voicemail from Jason. "Hey, Mom. Just checking in on how the appointment went. Give me a call." I called him back, keeping my voice steady. "It went fine. Dr. Kerrigan says I'm in great health." "That's good. Did he mention anything about memory or anything like that?" "He said my memory is excellent. Better than most people half my age, actually." Silence on the other end. Then, "Oh, that's great, Mom. Really great." But he didn't sound like it was great. 2 days later, things escalated. I came home from the grocery store to find Jason's car in my driveway. He had a key, had always had a key since he was 16. But when I walked in, something felt wrong. "Jason, I'm home." He appeared from my office, looking flustered. "Oh, hey, Mom. I was just dropping off some paperwork Tiff wanted you to look at." "What paperwork?" "Just some information about estate planning. She thought you might want to review it." After he left, I went into my office. My filing cabinet was open. Not just open, but clearly rifled through. Papers were slightly out of order, folders not quite closed properly. I checked my camera footage. Jason had been in my office for 20 minutes, going through files, photographing documents with his phone, my bank statements, my investment accounts, my will. That night, Laura and I had a conference call with Mark Sullivan. "It's time to confront them," Mark said. "We have enough evidence. The recordings, the search history, the doctor's note confirming your competence, the photos of Jason rifling through your files. If we wait any longer, they might do something more drastic." "Like what?" "Like trying to have you involuntarily committed for psychiatric evaluation. It's been done before. They'd claim you're a danger to yourself, get a judge to sign off on a 72-hour hold, and use that as evidence of incompetence." My blood ran cold. "They wouldn't." "Margaret," Laura said gently, "they were planning to lock you in a nursing home and steal your money. At this point, I don't think there's much they wouldn't do."
As the sun set on that
we set up
distant
the
horizon,
confrontation
I
for
knew
the
my
following
life would
Sunday.
never be the same.
I
It
invited
was a
Jason
moment
and
of
Tiffany for
pure,
dinner,
unadulterated
told them I
clarity.
wanted to discuss some important decisions. They arrived looking pleased with themselves. "Mom, we're so glad you're ready to be reasonable about this," Tiffany said, sitting down on my couch. "I am ready to be reasonable," I said calmly. "But first, I need to show you something." I turned on my TV and pulled up the video from 3 weeks earlier. Their faces were frozen on the screen, mid-conversation about getting me declared incompetent. Jason stood up so fast he knocked over his water glass. "Mom, what the hell?" "Sit down, Jason." My voice was steel. "We're going to watch this. All of it." For the next 15 minutes, they sat in silence as their own voices filled the room, planning my imprisonment, discussing how to steal my money, laughing about it. When it was over, Tiffany's face was red. "You were spying on us? That's illegal! You can't record people without their consent." Actually, a voice came from my office doorway. In South Carolina, only one party needs to consent to a recording. Margaret consented to recording in her own home. It's perfectly legal. Mark Sullivan stepped into the living room, followed by Laura. Jason's face had gone pale. "Mom, we can explain." "Explain what?" My voice broke. "Explain how you were going to steal $4 million from me? Explain how you wanted to have your own mother declared incompetent? Explain how you were rifling through my private files?" "We weren't going to steal anything. We were just trying to help you manage." "Manage what, Jason?" "I've been managing perfectly fine. What you wanted to manage was access to my bank accounts." Tiffany grabbed her purse. "We're leaving, and we're getting a lawyer. You can't do this to us." "Actually," Mark said, "you should probably get a very good lawyer, because what you've done constitutes attempted fraud and elder abuse. Those are felony charges in South Carolina." They left in a fury of slammed doors and shouted threats. I collapsed on the couch, shaking. Laura sat beside me, holding my hand. "You did the right thing, Mom." "Did I?" "He's my son. I just threatened my own son with prison." "He threatened you first," Mark said quietly. "He was going to take everything from you, Margaret. Your freedom, your home, your money. He didn't see you as his mother. He saw you as an obstacle to his inheritance." Over the next few weeks, things moved quickly. Mark sent a cease and desist letter to Jason and Tiffany, along with copies of all our evidence. The letter made it clear, if they came near me, contacted me, or made any attempts to access my finances or medical information, we would file criminal charges immediately. Jason tried to call me 18 times that first week. I didn't answer. He sent texts. "Mom, please, we need to talk. Mom, you're overreacting. Mom, Tiffany and I were just worried about you. Mom, I'm your son. How can you do this to me?" That last one almost broke me, because he was right. He was my son, the child I'd loved unconditionally for 35 years, but he'd been willing to destroy me for money. 3 months later, I was doing better. Therapy helped. Dr. Chen, a wonderful psychologist who specialized in family trauma, helped me understand that I could grieve the relationship I thought I had with Jason while also protecting myself from the person he'd actually become. Laura flew out every few weeks. We went through her father's belongings together, something I'd been avoiding. We found letters Robert had written to both kids to be opened after his death. Jason's letter was full of love and pride, but also included this line: "Remember that money is a tool, not a goal. Character is what you leave behind, not cash." The irony was crushing. I updated my will. Laura inherited the house and 70% of the estate. I set up a trust for Jason that he couldn't access until he was 50 and had completed therapy and demonstrated financial responsibility. It might seem harsh, but Mark assured me it was more than fair given what Jason had attempted. The rest I put into a foundation in Robert's name, funding scholarships for medical students from low-income families. One afternoon, about 6 months after the confrontation, I ran into Tiffany at the grocery store. She looked terrible, dark circles under her eyes, her usual perfect hair pulled back in a messy ponytail. "Margaret," she said, and her voice cracked. "Please, I need to talk to you." Every instinct told me to walk away, but something in her face made me pause. We sat in my car in the parking lot, and Tiffany told me everything. The restaurant Jason had opened had failed, losing $300,000. Tiffany's student loans from law school, she'd never actually passed the bar, were $90,000. They'd taken out a home equity line of credit to cover expenses and were now 6 months behind on payments. The bank was threatening foreclosure. "I'm not telling you this to excuse what we did," Tiffany said, tears streaming down her face. "What we planned was horrible, unforgivable, but I need you to understand that we weren't evil people who suddenly decided to rob you. We were desperate people who made a terrible, terrible choice. You were going to lock me away, Tiffany, in a nursing home. For money." "I know. God, I know. And I can't sleep at night thinking about it. I keep imagining how terrified you must have been when you saw that video. I keep thinking about what Robert would say if he knew." She sobbed. "He would hate us. And he would be right to." I let her cry. And then I said something that surprised even me. "Tiffany, I'm going to give you some advice. Not as someone who forgives you, because I don't know if I can, but as someone who's lived longer than you have. You need to leave Jason." Her head snapped up. "What?" "The man who would plan to imprison his own mother for money is not a man you can trust. What happens when you get older? When you're the one with assets he wants? If he could do this to me, he can do it to you." She was quiet for a long time. Then, "He's already suggested we try again. Try to get you declared incompetent. Said we just need a better plan." Ice water ran through my veins. "He said that?" She nodded, wiping her eyes. "Last week. I told him I couldn't, that I wouldn't. We've been fighting ever since." She looked at me directly. "Margaret, I'm so sorry. For all of it. I can't take back what we planned, what I said on that recording, but I can tell you that I'm leaving him. I've already talked to a divorce lawyer." After she left, I sat in my car for a long time. I thought about Jason, about the boy he'd been, and the man he'd become. I thought about Robert and what he would want me to do. That night, I called Mark Sullivan. "I need you to prepare something for me." A letter to Jason, laying out conditions under which I might consider limited contact. "Margaret, are you sure?" He literally just tried again to, "I know, but he's still my son. And I need to know I tried everything before I close that door completely." The letter was clear. Jason had to complete therapy. He had to take a financial management course. He had to get a steady job and maintain it for at least a year. He had to make amends, not with words, but with actions. And even if he did all of that, I couldn't promise anything beyond occasional supervised contact. I never got a response to that letter. Instead, 6 months later, I got a letter from Tiffany's divorce attorney requesting that I provide testimony about Jason's character for the custody hearing. They had a 3-year-old daughter I'd barely gotten to know. Apparently, Jason had been hiding money from Tiffany, lying about his employment, and had been verbally abusive. I testified. I told the truth about what he'd tried to do to me. It hurt like hell, but I did it. Now, it's been almost 2 years since that night I discovered the search history on my laptop. I'm 64 now. Laura visits regularly, and we've grown closer than we've ever been. I started volunteering at a senior center, helping older adults understand their financial rights and protect themselves from exploitation. Turns out my experience, as painful as it was, made me uniquely qualified to help others. The Robert Chen Medical Scholarship Fund has put 3 students through medical school so far. I attend their white coat ceremonies, and Robert's legacy lives on in ways Jason never could have provided. I think about Jason sometimes. Wonder if he's gotten help, if he's changed, if he ever thinks about what he tried to do. I hope he does. I hope it haunts him the way it haunted me. But I also know this. I did the right thing. I protected myself. I didn't let guilt or obligation or the idea of what family should be cloud my judgment. Robert would be proud of that. Laura is proud of that. And slowly, painfully, I'm learning to be proud of it too. I still live in my house by the Charleston Harbor. Every morning, I have my coffee on the back porch and watch the sun rise over the water. I'm alone, but I'm not lonely. I'm safe, I'm free, and I'm surrounded by people I know I can trust. My money, Robert's legacy, is protected. Not hoarded, but used wisely. Some for security, some for joy, some for helping others, exactly as Robert would have wanted. Sometimes love means letting go. Sometimes protection means saying no, even to your own child. Sometimes the hardest thing and the right thing are the same thing. I learned that the hard way, but I learned it nonetheless. And if my story can help even one other person recognize the warning signs, set boundaries, and protect themselves from those who would exploit them, even family, then maybe all of this pain had a purpose. That's what I choose to believe anyway. As I sit here now, watching another Charleston sunset paint the sky in shades of orange and pink, I raise my glass of wine to Robert, who built a life worth protecting, to Laura, who helped me protect it, to second chances and hard lessons and the strength I didn't know I had until I needed it, and to the truth that sometimes the people who are supposed to love us most are the ones we need to guard against the hardest. It's a bitter truth, but it's truth nonetheless. And I'm still here, in my home, living my life, making my own choices. That's my victory.